Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything that this podcast believes in, it's freedom of speech.
Yes, sir.
And it's about having a platform to express your ideas, no matter what the ideas are, no matter how controversial they are.
You should be allowed to say them.
And that's why it pisses me off that people are deplatformed just because of something they said.
But here on this podcast, we're going to give them a platform. A platform to stand on.
The place that they can say the words that they want to. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I know you've all been waiting for this. I know this is the topic of the year. We have a special guest, Mr. Tucker Carlson.
What in the hell is wrong with you people? Slimer from Ghostbusters is already nude. Why is it suddenly inappropriate for him to be wearing lingerie?
I agree.
These photos are normal. Everyone has photos like these. They're just too damn scared to admit it. This is not a crime. Have you even read the Constitution?
Honestly.
The founding fathers didn't say a single thing against sliming yourself at work. I locked the door. I shut the windows. I had no idea the intern was in there. She was wearing blue and blended in with the curtains. If I had known she was there, I would have never gotten totally nude.
Of course
Pulled
not.
out my Slimer photos and covered myself in green go. I need to lay down.
Okay. Well, you go do that. We totally understand. We get it. It's been a rough week for you.
It has.
Hell, it's been a rough year for you. And as patriots, as true American patriots, we stand on the idea that as long as you have a platform and as long as you have a place to share your ideas, that's all that matters. Here's the intro.
The Southwest has been home to the most infamous outlaws, from Billy the Kid to Neil Patrick Harris. Safe to say, legends have wandered these deserts. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the wind whisper their story over this barren land. Well, these two gunslingers, they have their own story to tell. They're shooting from the hip.
Wow. That was impressive. As you can hear, the pats on my own back. Anyways, my name is Juan,
I am Richard.
and we are shooting from the hip.
Shooting from the hip.
So, on the topic of American freedom, yesterday we watched a movie that I like to believe was actually an advertisement, a long-form advertisement for Coors Light beer, the most American beer you can drink, apparently. We watched Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, Smoking the Band. Okay, love that movie. I have to argue that the most American beer is Budweiser. It's a can of beers.
No, I understand. I get that. You know, horses on the can. I totally understand. Is there horses on the can? I'm pretty sure there's horses on the can.
There-
Well, you have a bottle. It's not a can.
Okay, but even the can is similar.
Yeah, but like, okay, but I'm just saying that's
Coors does have horses
No.
on the can.
no, it doesn't. Does
Yes,
it?
it does.
Where?
I'm pretty sure it does on the front.
Oh, well, I'm just saying. I look at
Okay.
Budweiser, and yeah, Budweiser is definitely an American beer, just from the look. You know what I mean? It's got the red. It's got the logo in the middle. The logo
The light
looks-
version is blue, so it works.
Yeah, red, white, and blue. You know what I mean?
True American
Yeah.
style.
Tucker Carlson sitting over there.
Yep, he agrees.
Laying
He's
down.
giving the thumbs up. We can't.
I'm not sure if it's his thumb or if that's a. Oh, that's something else. So we watched Smokey and the Bandit last night, and I'm telling you, man, as good of a movie as it is, I hadn't seen it since I was a teenager. That thing
Same as me. Yeah, same. I haven't watched it in a really long time.
is a full-on advertisement. Okay, 100%. But here's my biggest gripe with the movie.
Okay.
How is it that you cast a man like Burt Reynolds. Which I
True
think
American patriot.
I think we can. I think we can both agree. Burt Reynolds is he's an American, good-looking, classic cowboy-looking dude, right? And the person that you cast as his female love interest,
right,
is Sally Field.
Well, back then, all you needed was like kind of pretty face, and
yeah, but
that's all you wrote on.
Like, to me, Sally Fields has had the same face since the 70s. Like, it hasn't changed. It's exactly the same. Like, every time I see Sally Field, I think of the mom from Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't think love interest in this cool, like, race car, outlaw trucking. That's the
trucks, muscle cars, running from the cops, and beer. That's all you need for a good American film right there.
I love the way that they introduce them, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's
been a while, so you're going to have to paint me a word picture.
Okay, so the movie starts off with it's like this big, tall Texan dude, and he's with this little short dude.
Oh, yeah, Boston Hog.
Yeah. And they're walking up, and they're like, well, so the movie starts with the guy getting caught with the Coors in the back of his truck.
Is that right?
Yeah, so it's like they need like 400 cases of Coors Light.
Right, I remember that, but they got caught?
Not Bandit. He doesn't get caught. It's another guy who gets caught.
Oh, okay. I get you. Okay.
Yeah, so they open the back of this truck, and he has the 400
Coors.
Yeah, a bunch
Coors
of Coors
Banquet.
because it's just so damn good. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. True American. Yellow Bellies. True American beer.
Absolutely willing to get themselves in trouble with the law. It's a felony, apparently, at this point. But they're like, I need that Coors. You know what I mean?
Well, we got to supply. It's for a race, right?
It's for a race.
It's like to sell at the race.
Which I'll get to that. Okay. Because trust me, I have opinions on that too. But the way that it starts is this dude gets caught, and then the next scene is like the big dude and the short dude walking over to where Burt Reynolds or Bandit is hanging out, or Bo is his real name.
Wait, isn't he introduced like sleeping on the couch or something?
No, he's sleeping on a hammock.
Hammock. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yep.
But
you're right.
But he like walks up. He's like, I need to find the man who's driving this truck. And the guy's like, well, I'm his manager. It's another guy. And he's like, I pay him $25 a day to be here. And the guy's like, well, I'm going to pay for a whole day's worth of blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whatever he says. Hands him cash. They walk back. The bandit's just swinging. He's got the cowboy hat over his face.
True American style. Just
full on.
That's how you take a nap.
I like to imagine there was like some German dude watching that movie, and he was like, I need to go to the United States now. I want to be a cowboy.
I want a cowboy hat.
I want a cowboy hat. So they walk back there, and they're like, oh, is this what legends do? Like the big guy. Mm-hmm. And Bandit's sitting there, and he's like, he could care less, classic cowboy style, swinging back and forth on this hammock. He's got the cowboy hat over his face. He doesn't care.
Yeah, knows they're there, but does
he's not enough.
He's
to be
taking a nap.
Yeah,
and
they tell him like, we got something you want to try. Task for you. Mm-hmm. 400 cases of Coors Light brought over the Texas border here to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. And the entire time this scene is happening, I'm thinking to myself, Coors? Really? Coors?
You couldn't pick a better one.
You know what I mean? Like
Coors is it's okay.
It's fine.
Like if I'm at a party, I'll drink it. But.
Spicy water. But they get this guy hired, and of course, he accepts because it's like a challenge, and they're like, we're gonna give you $80,000.
It's his ego.
Yeah.
Which is the driving force behind a lot of movies back then was just the pride of the main character. Like,
character.
You're going to challenge me? Accepted.
Yeah, it could literally be like, I bet you can't toss a beanbag into that hole over there. And they make a 2-hour movie out of it.
You know what? I would watch that movie. I think that would be pretty entertaining, especially Burt Reynolds starring in it. Hell yeah.
But so as we're watching this movie, so I the reason we watched it is because Steph had never seen it before. My girlfriend had never seen it before.
American classic. I can't believe it.
It's like a brand new thing. You know what I mean? So I've been like asking her to watch it for a couple of weeks. I was like, trust me, you're going to love this thing.
You made me watch Friends, so I'm going to make you watch Smokey and the Bandit.
See, Friends is fine. What she made me watch was like, I don't know, some movie starting like, Hugh Grant and like Lisa Kudrow or something. I don't know, whatever. I was like,
I have not watched that movie.
you know, where like the whole storyline.
she's making
is,
you watch Notting Hill type shit.
The whole storyline is like, I'm a busy businesswoman. I just can't find time for love. And Hugh Grant's like, well, I'll have an accent. So
How about we go to lunch? That was a terrible accent.
and then they're 10 beers deep or 10 wines deep because it's a woman's flick. And he's like,
10 Cabernet Sauvignon.
yeah, and he's like, let me tell you how different this is for you. Anyways, back to the movie. So they hire this dude, and they promise him like $80,000, like,
Which
dude,
back then is like over $1 million.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
yeah, and like, do
Do you know how many muscle cars I could buy with that?
And he's like, that's the thing. He starts off, and he's like, oh well, you're gonna have to pay me up front. You know, he's like, I'm gonna need a car,
Like
fast
half-
car,
yeah, half
quick
up front.
car, yeah. So they buy him like a Pontiac Firebird, right?
Trans Am.
Yeah, Trans Am. And, you know, then he goes to the house and he goes to his buddy's house. His buddy's the truck
Smokey.
driver, Smokey. And he walks in.
Wait,
and he's like,
Yes,
oh, no,
yeah,
no.
Smokey's the truck driver.
Is it? I thought Smokey was I think Smokey's actually the cops, isn't it?
No.
Because they call him Smokies throughout the movie.
It's been a while. It's been a while. But anyway,
Yeah.
he goes to
Yeah.
truck driver's house.
So he goes to the truck driver's house and he like knocks on his door. And his wife and like they started off like showing what this truck driver's life is. He's got like 12 kids and he like walks in.
But he
and
could
she's
do
like,
a lot with that money.
yeah,
is
but
the
like what I'm
point.
saying is he opens the door and the wife is like, you're not allowed in here. How many times do I have to listen to me? And he just breaks and enters into this woman's house. And he's like, yeah, shut up. You know,
I need to talk to my friend about a job.
I need to talk to the man of the house. You know what I mean?
Because it's the 80s.
It's
80s.
70s.
70s.
Yeah, even worse. So he walks into the back, opens the door, and he finds his homie like sleeping on the bed. And he's like, hey,
I got
man,
a job.
You got a job for us.
Every heist or like get away from the law movie is always, I got a job. I'm not doing the job, but I got a job.
But let me
okay,
tell
I'll
you-
do the job.
Let me tell you how much the job pays.
Yeah, that's it. As soon as they hear the ticket price, they're like, oh, okay.
But legit,
maybe I'll break the law.
That's it. He says $80,000, and the guy's
You get
like,
half.
like he's like Uncle Joe in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like jumps out of bed,
Yeah.
starts dancing around, doing the fucking giddy or whatever.
Right.
They get in the car, and he's like, I'm gonna bring my bloodhound with me.
Of course.
I don't remember what the name of the bloodhound was. It's a cute dog. Love that
Very,
dog.
yeah, love bloodhounds.
So they get in the truck, and like the movie starts with them being like, "Oh, we're gonna start this off. This is what it is. This is how we go. We move on forward."
Mm-hmm.
You know, they start driving towards Texas, and like the first 10 minutes of the movie or the first 10 minutes of their journey, it's super smooth. You know,
Well, it's super smooth, but
speeding.
Right. But I want to point out the fact that it's only about a third of the way through that movie that you understand why Bandit's even there. You could just use the truck to get the beer over. Like,
Right.
What is the point of Bandit? Until the cops get introduced and they're like, oh,
he pulls away
he's-
the cops from
yeah,
the situation.
Yeah.
So he's like
he's the
driving around.
distraction.
Yeah, so they go into like a small little town right before Texarkana, where they're picking up the Coors,
Right. The Kurz.
the champagne of
The
beer,
nice Kurz. No, that's Miller High Life. You
The-
can't don't get it twisted.
the
all right?
wine of beer. And so this dude shows up to this little like town, and there's a highway patrol officer waiting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he does is like, oh, I see a patrol officer. I'm gonna go 75 miles an hour. You know,
Draw them away and then lose
let
them.
the truck go through, right? And so you're like, oh, I get it. That's why he's there. He's
Terrific
the
right?
fake out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Terrific writing. He's the go man. I love smoking. I like this conversation, but when you brought up the 12 kids thing, it made me think of. Did you ever watch Overboard?
No, what is that?
No, you haven't watched it. It's Kurt Russell. I want to
What?
say is his name, and I don't know. So a
Sounds
blonde
like-
actress from the 80s.
Okay.
So she's like this rich, well-to-do woman. Okay. And then somehow she falls off of her yacht, which Kurt Russell is doing. He's a carpenter, so he's doing work on the yacht. And she falls off, goes to the listen to this premise. Goes to the hospital, has like a concussion, has complete amnesia. So Kurt Russell, like, she's been being a bitch to him the entire time, like just that stuck up, rich woman.
It's the 80s.
It's the 80s, and
a well-to-do woman.
Oh, she's
how dare she talk back to a man?
No. She's like the spoiled rich kid.
Oh, okay.
She's the spoiled rich kid. Do you know who my father is? And Kurt Russell's like, I don't care who your father is. Well, he's the one paying you, so you need to do what I say. And anyway, so she's in the hospital, has complete amnesia, doesn't know who she is. Kurt Russell comes in, says, "No, you're my wife. Like you're the mother of my children."
What?
Yeah. Stay with me here.
He's the good guy in this situation.
Hold on. This is a romantic comedy in the 80s. Kurt Russell comes into the hospital. No, you're my wife. Takes her home and makes her be housewife to his like 5 rowdy ass children. Dirty, don't wear shoes type situation because he's a carpenter and he's out in the sticks. And this goes on for the whole second act.
What?
She's like playing mom, and then suddenly she starts feeling. She's like, no, this is my family. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And then she finally gets her memory back and decides, no, I'm gonna be a wife to this carpenter and these 5 unruly children that go play out in the woods.
Man, I don't see what the problem is with that. I think that's a very romantic story.
Oh yeah, totally romantic.
Kidnapping a well-off woman and making her believe that she's your wife so that she could take care of your 20 shitty kids.
Yeah, romance of the century right there. That's what.
Imagine that when the movie came out in the theaters in the 80s.
And I actually really like that movie. It's when you talk about it and when you try to like work through the story.
Right.
Sketchy.
I like to imagine that there was like a standing ovation at the end of that movie in like the theater.
Yay, Kurt Russell, you kidnapped a rich woman.
Oh, it was so good.
This was amazing. Totally romantic. She saw the value in the other side of life.
It's a theater full of like scared women and a bunch of men going, now that's how you treat a woman.
The woman's just like, yeah.
They're just like,
the woman's there. They're doing the little golf clap.
I just don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this.
Shut up. That was a great
timing.
movie.
So anyways, back to Smoking the Bandit.
Right, sorry.
So he shows up to his house, gets him in the truck, and they show up to that place, and then, of course, like they show...
The reason behind Bandit.
Yeah, Bandit being there in the Trans Am so that he can, like, draw away the cops.
Pretty much Dukes of Hazzard, but in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. But, of course, I mean, it's probably during a time when, like, Dukes of Hazzard is, like, top-tier television. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially in the South. And so the first thing that happens in the story is they show up to the Coors place, and they literally start the movie by like stealing the beer. They don't like.
Well, that's why the cops are after him.
No, that's the thing. They show up to the Coors, like the Coors factory or the whatever it is,
brewery.
You know what I mean? The brewery, and they open the thing, and there's no one working there, so they break the lock. I mean, right off the bat, you're like, that's a move, and they're like, how are we gonna get these beers loaded? And he's like, well, drive this forklift. You know what I mean? And he gets on the forklift, and the guy's like, you know how to drive a forklift? And it's like them like being like flirty with each other, whatever. I don't know. That's what 70s movies was. Like
weird buddy cop thing. Like,
yeah, where you're like, are they going to, is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, but see, that's where I cannot remember how the Sally Field character gets introduced.
Okay, trust me. So this
okay, we're getting there. Good.
So they get the forklift, and first off, they fucking like destroy like 100 boxes of beer. Because Burt Reynolds is like being a goofball behind the forklift.
Watch me do this.
He almost kills his friend and like slams into the beer, and his friend falls into like a bunch of glass.
Okay.
And he's
I
like,
remember that.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you trusted me, I guess. You know what I mean? The guy's like, Burt.
That was your problem, was trusting me.
Bandit.
Yeah.
So anyways, somehow without being caught, because apparently no one lives in this town where they brew Coors, they fill up this entire truck full of Coors Light boxes and get it all packed up to the very top. And Burt Reynolds' character is like, leave them a note. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm too important to leave him a note. So the guy's like, well,
And the note's sorry, frowny face.
Well, no. So then, of course, they get into the fact that like people from Georgia can't read. Sorry.
Oh my God.
So
I forgot about that.
So he's having a hard time writing a note where he's essentially just saying like, sorry, we took your beer. But the dude is such a dipshit that he doesn't know how to write the whole note. So he just kind of goes like, I got to get going. Throws the fucking pad off to the side. Gets into the truck and then just, like, drives away. So first off, we're starting off. These are our heroes of the movie.
Right.
Theft. Right away.
Illiteracy. And then we get to Sally Fields.
Yeah, exactly. So then he's driving and he notices a woman on the side of the road, and not on the side of the road. She's standing in the middle of the road. She has like a wedding dress on.
Exactly. Okay. Right? Now I remember.
Yeah. And this dude's like driving towards her and he's like, she's hot. Yeah. So he pulls off.
Because it's the 70s.
Yeah, so needless to say, they have the challenge is like get the beer back to Georgia in 28 hours or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah. There is a time limit. You're right.
They have a time limit. And Burt Reynolds is just too busy trying to like get laid.
By Sally Fields.
that he pulls off to the side of the road and he's like, get in the car. And no, he doesn't even say get in the car. She just hops in.
Yeah.
Because it's the 70s. And they were like, hey, dude, if you ever see a stranger in a car and they pull over for you, just hop on in.
Because it's hitchhiking.
Yeah,
everybody does it. Come on.
So the way that like they introduce her is they're like, oh, this woman, she nags a lot. Right. That's all she does.
But she ran from the altar. Did it ever get explained why she ran from the altar?
She runs from the altar because she's marrying the sheriff of Texas, the Texas sheriff's son.
Okay.
And that's why they're chasing her down, because they're trying to get her back.
Okay.
Right? So, of course, I don't know
why did she run?
Well, it's because she didn't want to get married.
So it was like an arranged marriage type thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily...
It's for the family, not for you.
Well, it doesn't necessarily like cancel out the theft, but you're like, all right, well, he's like saving a woman from like a bad wedding. Anyway, she gets in the Trans Am and she's like, and like, I shit you not, Richard, 3 minutes into their conversation, she says something like, jump this, jump that. And he's like, well, I want to jump you. And like, and it's like, bro, you've known this woman for 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
And don't get me wrong, I get it. It's Burt Reynolds driving the car. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever. No. But anyways, no. So she gets in the car and he like essentially like comes onto her like almost immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really problematic. There's something going on here. Anyway, she gets in the car, yada, yada, yada.
Isn't there at some point she slaps him?
At
some point in the movie?
I don't think she puts hands on him because it's the 70s, and I'm pretty sure he would have like thrown it like a George Foreman right hook.
Well, I think it was supposed to like establish her as she's a strong woman, and she's willing to stand up to
the way that they establish her as a strong woman is like she's like willing, she's down essentially.
Oh, you know what I mean? Okay.
She's like,
I'm not married, but
I want to be a renegade. Sure. I want to be a revolutionary.
Let's go. Yeah, I want to be a rebel.
Yeah, she's like, she asks like a solid question. She like looks over and she's like, oh my God, are we actually going 110 miles an hour? And he looks over here like,
of course we are. Look at the speedometer.
It's like, dude, she has every reason to be scared. She's in a Trans Am with a man she doesn't know who has his shirt open down to his belly button.
Because it's the 70s.
Driving 110 miles an hour.
Drinking a beer. I'm pretty sure he drinks beer while he's driving.
Chain smoking cigarettes. And he keeps going on the CB radio that he has in his car being like, I got a lady in the car with me. And the way that they introduce her is like literally it's just her like complaining. And I'm like, this is the most like 70s shit. Like the way they
all she does is nag.
Exactly. So anyways, they move on. And all I'm saying is, as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking to myself, as much as I love this movie, it's one of the most problematic movies I've ever seen in my life.
Right. You realize it's problematic, but then all you hear is eastbound down
rolling up. Yeah, and then like you're kind of like,
this is fucking cool.
You're kind of like, this movie's giving me some real rapey vibes. And then you're hearing eastbound down rolling up and trucking. You're like,
no, this
who cares about that?
Yeah. They're running from the cops. That's cool.
Yeah, and then the sheriff is like the most unlikable dude in the world, which they make him into a great villain, right? Because he's got his dodo ass son with him. Yeah, who's like, daddy, you're not noticing. Like The son's not that stupid because it's actually noticing the situation around him.
Right. But I just want to throw out just a quick aside. No male over 5 should call their dad daddy. I don't care if you're from the South or not. You should not call your dad daddy.
Daddy.
30-year-old man calling your dad daddy.
Yeah, no. The thing is that like it's in the 70s, so like the 30-year-olds look like they're in their 60s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the dudes look rough.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Like everybody else, including Sally Fields, in that movie, other than Burt Reynolds, who just moisturized to hell apparently,
Great genes.
looks like they're in their 50s. And they're all like a bunch of 20-year-old people writing.
Which
like,
is the like complete opposite of early 2000s, where they're supposed to be playing 17-year-olds, but they look 35.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a complete opposite.
Yeah.
But that's because in the 70s, looking like a 30-year-old at 17
That was cool.
standard.
Yeah.
It's because all you did was smoke cigarettes and drink beer,
That's it. Yep.
especially in the small town
Drink
area.
like corned beef or eat corned beef, drink beer, and smoke cigarettes. And that's that.
Usually when you think of Smokey and the Bandit, you think of like right-wing older
Well,
men watching
yeah.
that movie and being like, I love this movie.
Right.
But they're the same guys who are like, back the blue.
Right. Isn't that
Oh,
weird?
Why didn't you just listen to him?
Isn't
He wouldn't
that
have done
weird?
that if you just listened to him.
You know what? I did not think about.
Yeah, it's a movie essentially about like
Evading the law.
evading the law, bringing illegal substances over the border.
Oh, because it's a dry county. That's why it's illegal. I forgot why.
That's why they're not allowed to bring
Because
Coors
it's a
to
dry
Savannah.
county.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. But then, yeah, like you said, the same people are
Yeah.
no, our police officers are right.
And they watch that movie and they're like, I
deep
love this.
cut,
I
deep
love it so
cut.
much.
Here on Shootin' From the Hip, deep cut.
See, but so anyways, the movie goes on. And of course, it's like your standard like runaway movie. Like the cop keeps getting himself into like goofy situations and he's like, oh, I lost the top of my car and almost killed myself, but I better
I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, exactly. There's a part where like a trucker like just drops the door off of like the side of his car and he's just like, dude, you are an officer of the law.
Like-
you have a gat. You know what I mean? On your hip.
Well, back then it was like a 38 revolver.
Right.
But still.
Yeah, I get that. But you could probably shoot a tire out with that.
Oh,
if you're
you
a good enough
definitely
shot.
could.
You know what I mean?
Definitely could.
But watching the movie, the whole thing is like, oh man, you know, truckers and
Yeah.
the men of the road, they stick together.
Blue collar.
And everybody really does stick together throughout the movie. And that's what I love about the movie is that it's like they
It is a
show the characters
camaraderie.
as like it's a family or like a friendship and they all understand each other.
Yeah. They're brothers against the law.
And of course the movie ends with Burt Reynolds being like, you know, they deliver the beer and they make it there. And but it's after like
It's like
all of-
30 seconds late or something like that.
Yeah,
so
but the entirety of the Georgia State Police Department is like going after them, and somehow when they get to the race, it's all forgiven. Like, like the police doesn't show up.
Well,
like,
you beat us.
They literally have a helicopter going after them, and the second they get to that race, the helicopter
good.
essentially just takes a U-turn. He's like,
where'd they go?
ah, dang.
Man, I can't find them.
But you know,
It's out of my jurisdiction, so I can't do anything.
so then the movie ends with them being like, you know, they get there and they're like, all right, we need the money. You know what I mean? Because they make it in time.
Right.
And the guy's like,
Wasn't it supposed to be half up front or something
yeah,
like
he
that?
gave him half up front, but it's whatever. You know, he bought the Trans Am with it or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So,
So they need the money.
yeah, he's like, I need the money. And the guy's like, the little short dude is like, double or nothing. And he's like, I'll take that bet, but I'm going to need your Cadillac. You know, so they hop in. And then the dude who's been driving the truck, Smokey or whatever, he literally says, like, you know, Burt Reynolds goes, oh, we're rich. And he goes, and I'm divorced. And like, legit, like, it's like. And I'm like, dude, the dude just admitted that he's like divorcing, like, essentially his wife's going to divorce him. And that's supposed to be like the heroic line of the
Right.
Like, could you imagine watching the Avengers? You know, I mean,
And Hawkeye's just like,
I'm divorced, and like the crowd's like, yeah, go Hawkeye. Anyways, yeah, man, I watch those movies and I just think to myself, it's overly problematic. It is
Yeah.
what it is. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. Just give us a second. We're gonna go do our thing. What do you think of that? Eastbound and down, rolling up in trouble. She gonna bring me down.
Great song. But also one of those songs you really only know the chorus of.
Yeah, that's about it. Like I
The
couldn't
rest
tell you
of
the
it. I would have to look up the lyrics.
Yeah, it's like when you sing like purple rain, and then you're like,
So kind of on that topic, we talked a little bit last time about one of my favorite bands,
okay,
Motley Crue. And
okay.
I really don't feel I did that whole conversation a great deal of justice.
Okay.
Because I didn't have many points other than, I mean, I respect their beginnings. I respect how they got where they were.
Yeah.
But one thing I definitely wanted to bring up was they are a very heavy, very power focused, very chorus focused band. And I think that's a lot of what they were looking for in the 80s, like a chant, like chanting type, like something that they could feel like if they're in the concert, they can feel a part of.
So they have the crowd singing it back to them.
Exactly, like that kind of power.
Well, on the topic of Motley Crue, I actually have another caller.
Oh, we have another guest star?
We have a
Two
whole
guest stars.
another guest star. Yeah, I know.
Two guest stars.
This is Randy. So I'll let Randy explain his experience with Motley Crue growing up. But I think that unlike Anthony, who apparently was just the most surprisingly like out of left field agreeable person that I would have never expected him to be, I'm hoping that Randy will maybe shut you down a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm ready. Let's get it going.
We're gonna call him right now. It says calling mobile, so I don't know why it's not ringing. Let's try it again. Let's try calling him again.
There we go.
So what I'm saying is that I think that I think this will be an interesting debate and I'll let him explain his experience with Motley Crue early on.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious
because I want him to.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Randy, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Okay, you are on the podcast.
What's up, Randy?
What's going on, fellas? Richard, what's going on, man?
So we had a conversation about Motley Crue in a previous episode, and Richard just brought Motley Crue up again, and so I thought you'd be a perfect guest for this conversation because.
Okay, guys.
But I want you to explain your upbringing with Motley Crue and how you feel about them now that you're an adult.
Yeah, tell us about your journey.
My journey begins when I was about born.
Same.
My dad raised me pretty much on that music. It was weird. It was a mix of like Motley Crue, System of a Down, very broad spectrum. Broad spectrum because my dad liked 80s into 90s metal stuff like that. So I've always had an appreciation for Motley Crue. I read The Dirt, I'm like
Same.
I would definitely have called myself a fan.
Would.
And I still like some of their music. I do. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the lameness of Vince Neil now, and just the entire retrospective of the band. Of just like I see Vince Neil up there embarrassing himself, and I'm like, oh man.
You know what?
Oh man. I'm like 6 a.m. should have just kept on going.
Oh God. Okay, that's 2 points I want to bring up. One, I agree with you on the Vince Neil part. Seeing him now, like he is out of breath half the time. His nose is redder than a fucking tomato. So I kind of agree with that. So I tend to like, anytime I see Motley Crue, I just imagine what they were in the 80s. So maybe that's where like my mindset is. 6 a.m. though, I want to touch on that because I really enjoyed, so it was the Heron Diaries soundtrack. After that, I want to say, no. After that, it was music.
Richard's just trying to name off albums to
really sound
special.
Yeah, because I'm super informed as I bring out my phone and search for shit.
No, see, but the thing is that whenever I started listening to, the only reason I started listening to Motley Crue is because I started hanging out with Randy. And like, I had never, like I said before, I had never been introduced to that type of music until I met Randy and then like hung around his dad's shop.
And similar to Randy, you, Randy, I don't want to talk about you like you're not in the room, even though you're not in the room.
No worries. You're fine, man.
But I grew up with Motley Crue as well, but it was because of my mom. And my dad hated the fact that we both liked Motley Crue. So
okay.
And I want to just throw this out. It was because he said that they wore makeup and were all theatrics, and yet he listened to Kiss like it was no problem.
See, my father-in-law is a huge Kiss head, but he's also a Motley Crue fan. But Kiss is like his ultimate band, and I do love Kiss. I do love Kiss as well. I enjoy Kiss.
I like Kiss as well. Like the first time I saw a Motley Crue tour was with Kiss.
Yes. Did you watch them in 2012?
Yes, for the End tour.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Even though it was not the end.
Yeah, absolutely not. It never is. We're going on our 27th final tour.
Right.
All right. So before we start buttering each other up
here comes Juan to be the buzzkill.
I have to say, so I stated my opinion on Motley Crue before, but Randy, I'm sure you know, I'm sure I've told you this before. My feelings towards Motley Crue are that if it wasn't for the theatrics and it wasn't for the makeup and the look and, you know, essentially what that did to the 80s generation, they wouldn't be nearly as big of a band as they're considered.
And you know what? I've agreed with you.
They definitely had like talented, like there are definitely people in the band more talented than others. Like Tommy Lee, okay drummer, but Mick Mars, great player.
Right.
Nikki Sixx, so-and-so songwriter, fantastic sometimes. And then when he was on heroin and they had to write an album
and it was
for
the
him,
Girls
bad
album.
Bad songwriter. But great album that came out of it too. Great album that came out.
See, but that's my thing is like, if a whole band isn't working like the way that it should together, like I bring up a band like Avenged Sevenfold where everybody in that band has their part to play and they all kind of do their part very well. You know what I mean?
But can I argue that maybe the animosity, maybe the negative feelings around that maybe fueled the music a little bit around that point?
It made it shittier? Is that what you're trying to say?
Okay, and made it more visceral is the word I would use.
That's an interesting way to say shitty, but okay.
God, you're just being downer right now.
Look, so the reason why the reason why I wanted Randy to come on and talk to you about it is because, like I said, he grew up with this.
Right. So yeah, I am definitely interested in what led to the switch. Like you grew up loving the band.
I think honestly it just might have been like expanding to like other genres, like different kinds of music, like metal and stuff that I just kind of got out because I was like ask Juan. Like I went to school with like the the handcuffs on my belt and shit.
Yeah, you know? Safety pins and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very like, I don't know, maybe I was like, I'm done with this shit, you know?
So would you
like,
say
I'm moving on.
Would you say that the reason why you like
asking Alexandria
they were so like prolific in your style has more to do with because of like their style, or do you think it had to do with their music?
See, I liked their music, but then when you find like Metallica and you're like, oh,
it can be done
a lot
better.
cooler than like a power ballad, you know? This is like way cooler than a power ballad. Like this is like, damn, this is some cool ass songwriting. This is like Mozart with metal on it.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with that.
But I'm not saying that like they're awful. I just think that
no, they're awful. It's okay. You can say
calm down.
I
Randy
think
is speaking.
They're not like Led Zeppelin.
That's okay.
Or like to me, they're not like an iconic, like as iconic as like say Kiss I don't know. I don't know.
Randy,
Richard's making a lot of faces right now.
Richard just adjusted himself in his seat.
Cross the arms.
No, I'm like full into it. I'm leaning forward. I'm into this. I really like this conversation. Okay, iconic. That's the word that you used. I feel is not maybe as accurate because I do believe Motley Crue is iconic because they, in my opinion, led to like the Cinderella, the Twisted Sister, you could go Rat, you could go Guns N' Roses. That they're the only reason Guns N' Roses became big because they toured with Motley Crue during that time. Motley Crue was more of the attitude, more of the, drug, sex, rock and roll type thing, whereas Kiss was more in the songwriting, the also theatrics, but
I wouldn't call Kiss songwriters personally, but okay.
Okay, we can talk about that here in a minute. But I think.
What do you think?
Oh man, but comparing them to Metallica or
Led
Zeppelin,
I think that's a solid point that he brought up. I mean, like you look at Metallica and instrumentally, musically, just.
Right.
All together, Metallica's a much better band.
Well,
even with Lars on the drums, despite Lars on the drums, they pushed forward past Lars.
That's true.
They pushed forward past Lars. They were like, okay, we can do this.
But I'm going to be 100% honest. After Metallica, after the Black Album, I can't really listen to it.
Oh, I'm with you, Richard. Especially with these new albums, dude.
Yeah.
These new albums are awful. They all sound exactly the same.
Ooh.
Like
yes,
like Death Magnetic and On is like the exact same album.
I agree.
Like
I agree with that.
Their newest songs, I hate listen to the first couple. They're just awful.
Yeah.
They're just so repetitive. It's like butt rock.
Okay, but wouldn't you say that like listening to a Motley Crue album is similar to that experience?
Well, okay, which one?
See, the first couple I would disagree. The first few albums I enjoyed
up until Dr. Feelgood, you would say?
Yeah, and then I of course I like the Dr. Feelgood song and a few songs off that. But Girls has some solid hits on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just not everything always rocked with them.
I get that. Like, really, Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil are like those.
See, that's what my dad
really
raised
solid.
me on too. Those were the CDs I grew up like looking at.
Yeah,
like looking through the artwork and shit.
Okay, but my opinion, and as opinionated as I am, my thing when it comes to like a band, it depends on how well they can make an album, especially when they're like a band from the 80s. Mm-hmm. Like if I can't sit down and listen to an entire album from a band and at least be like 85% of that album was solid, then I walk away thinking it's a lesser band. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel about a lot of Motley Crue albums. I might be in enemy territory here, but like even on those first few albums, you know what I mean? I have a hard time getting through them because a lot of the times all I'm hearing is the same guitar riffs. I'm hearing the same drum beats. I'm hearing the same vocals over and over and over and over again.
I get that. Okay. I'm going to go a little off topic and say that I feel a lot of the reason why people like Motley Crue and why they identify with it so much is because the background drama was advertised, was like
right, but that's
thrown out.
That's not music. That's not
I understand where you're coming from, but that's what I'm saying. I think
that would be
it's
like
a feeling.
No, that would be like if the Jersey Shore cast made a fucking album.
I would listen to that.
But they were like, oh, it's a great album because,
I'm not saying it's great
because
album.
Mike socks Snooki, and that's why it's such a good fucking band.
I'm saying that the drama kind of fueled that animosity, and that led to the magic of the album.
All right, look, it's just...
Because look at Dr. Feelgood. That's after all of them went, for the first time at least, went sober.
Quote unquote
always
sober.
a bad idea. Always a bad idea.
I'm not even sober making this podcast.
Every time an artist is like, this is my sober album. I'm not saying anything against sobriety in a dour way.
Right.
But recovery's kind of funny, Eminem's recovery's kind of funny, and then no one liked it. He was like, "Why doesn't anyone like my music anymore?"
Who's the
especially during the 80s?
Who's the lead singer of Aerosmith?
Steven Tyler.
Okay.
Steven Tyler.
Yeah. So what you get is a Steven Tyler country album whenever everybody goes sober.
Okay, that was like.
Oh my goodness.
That was quite a few after. All right. Aerosmith is a totally different topic because that's one of my favorite bands of all time. Sorry, I keep cutting you off, Randy. Please go ahead.
A very consistent artist to me is Ozzy. Not everything he's released nowadays is like as good as his old shit, but he's always been consistent to me.
I can see where you're coming from because like Prisoner Number 9 was actually a pretty good fucking track.
Yeah. 13, when Black Sabbath got together, not a bad album. Not a bad last album.
Right.
Randy, I hope you understand that you have now been included in the upcoming Motley Crue People's Court debate that we're going to have.
Dun, 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 dun. I love it.
And you will be you will be used as a witness for my stand. I will let you know that.
See, if we're getting into like nitty gritty, it's like as people, most of Motley Crue sucks, especially with what's going on with them and Mick Mars right now.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with that because they tried that in the '90s with Vince Neil. They tried to go for that Generation Swine, I think it was called.
Yeah, but Vince Neil
deserved
Joe
Crabb, took over as lead singer.
Yes, my mother and father-in-law, they love that album. They actually really enjoy that Motley Crue. Yeah, they do, and they're big Crue fans, but they really like that album.
I feel like part as and a lot of this is just because I was majorly raised by my mom, and she is a huge Crue fan. And so I grew up a huge Crue fan.
Right.
As I stated in the previous podcast when Juan and I talked about Motley Crue, it was the components and Nikki Sixx picking out the 4 components of that band. And as soon as you get rid of that, Motley Crue is not Motley Crue anymore. And that was generally my feeling towards the band as a whole.
Yeah, see, but what you're saying is that it's, again, the personality that's driving what the band is.
Right.
Like you look at a band like the Foo Fighters and they're able to interchange their band members because the music is just good.
Well, okay, but then can you argue the same? It's the same idea as Panic at the Disco where it's, okay, Foo Fighters has Dave Grohl the entire time. Panic at the Disco has Brandon Urie the whole time.
Yeah, but
they're the driving force.
Yeah, but Nikki Sixx being a part of Motley Crue the entire time doesn't change anything. They still put out shitty albums.
Oh my God, it's a good thing there's a table in between us right now.
Randy, we're gonna invite you back for the People's Court debate, which I'm sure is gonna get more than heated.
Oh, it's going to get heated.
I need to be there for this. I really do.
We want you in person.
I'm going to do some more more homework before I come back, and I will absolutely come back to this.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you being on.
Do you have any
guys?
Statements?
Thank you guys so much.
Is there a statement that you want to say before you head off?
I would just like to say, I'm looking at my music collection right now. I'm seeing the Black Dahlia murder. I'm going to say, rest in peace, Trevor.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Trevor.
R.I.P. Trevor.
Murder.
Cheers.
I'm going to have pour a little bit of my beer out for him.
Hey, same here. Right on.
Hey, guys, thank you guys for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking more on this subject. And Richard, great talking to you, man.
Same.
Juan, awesome talking to you, bro.
Randy, great to talk, man. As always.
Buddies, you guys have a nice night, okay?
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night. Okay, look. So here's the thing. I don't want to get too much into it because, like I said, we have an entire episode dedicated to this one specific topic because apparently for 2 episodes now, we can't get off of this topic.
No.
Let's hit a closing statement on each side, okay? I'm going to say what I've always said. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for certain members of the band, not because of their musical talent, but because of the way that they dress and because of the way that they look and the way that they act, Motley Crue would not be the band that they are this day.
And I've agreed with that statement.
Okay? So what you're saying is it relies very little on their musical talent and it relies more on their personalities.
Yes, I've agreed with that before. I said it during this podcast.
So that means they're a shitty band.
That is, oh my God, you just... Well, I think this is where we end the podcast.
No, we wanted the podcast. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about, look.
Shitty band is not the correct way. Just because it is character-driven and personality-driven does not mean that it's a shitty band. Look at fucking Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Okay, good. In my opinion, good band. Why were they not as big as they were? Because of fucking Axl Rose is a prick.
No, you know, like sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like, well, you know, there's a camera and there's like a cast, but it doesn't matter if the cast is shitty at acting or anything. It's just as long as it's there.
All I'm saying, okay, I'm going to, you know what? Closing statement. In the 80s, people were looking for bombastic personalities, a lot of excess because it's the 80s. That's after the whole depression thing and what led to the, second Great Depression.
Right.
But anyway, it was a decade of excess. It was a decade of loud, wanting to chant, wanting to be included in something, and Motley Crue filled that role. Closing statement, we're done.
Okay. We'll change topics. Is that okay?
I am down with that.
Both of us had our closing statements. Listeners, we will revisit this exact conversation. And I promise you that when this conversation happens, when the full probably 2 hours of us conversating over whether or not Motley Crue is a bad band. It might be a part 1 and
part 2.
With multiple guests and people hopping in. We will have guests of all ages and of all on. And we will talk about the situation and finally figure out the question.
The
major question. Is Motley Crue
meat and potatoes of this
band?
conversation?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you and I say. It's going to come down to the people's vote.
That's
is
true.
Motley Crue a bad band?
We are men of the people. I fully support that.
And I assure you we will have that conversation when that day comes.
In the meantime.
Until then, I wanted to ask you a really quick question.
Okay.
Before we end this podcast, how shitty would it be to be famous? Do you ever think about that?
I do. Especially with like,
dude, we live in a small town and George Strait was just here. And there was a guy taking a video of him walking his dog while the dog was taking a shit.
Literally captured it as it was coming out, dude. It's ridiculous.
And they were like there's the king. There's the king
walking his prance. But so
could you imagine being outside and you're trying to take a leak or something and there's a camera pointed
you
right
have
at
fences, you feel like you're okay, and you're just like, you know what? Both bathrooms are full. I just want to take a quick leak. And all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow morning and look, Richard's taking a piss on his house. I have 5 pictures of it.
The entirety of the world is watching it going wow, I can't believe he would do that. How dare he?
How fucking dare you?
Honestly, man. The reality of the matter is, no matter how famous you get, no matter how big you get in the industry, you're always going to have people who watch you, and you're always going to have people who stare at
and
you
that's what,
take their time with you. And Richard, it looks like we actually have a... it looks like one of our guests is actually back up, and it looks like he's awake again. Hey, Tucker, what's going on, man? He's grabbing the microphone. Okay. Hey, Tucker, what's going on, man? How are you? Oh, okay. He's pulling. He is pulling this away from me. Okay, Tucker, what do you have to say? I'm sorry. What is it that you need to say? Oh, okay.
Oh, there's naked pictures of me all over the internet. Like what you see? I hope you do, because there's plenty more where that came from. What is going on? Who's jacking off to this? It's not me. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your family.